wait for a few minutes. Okay, I guess we start. Hello, everybody. My name is Eva Can. I'm the leader of the Win for Peace group of expertise of Win Global. And it's a great pleasure to open this webinar to all of you. And thank you for your interest in joining. We are having a small issue with Zoom and our panelist, Sachida Pachiapan is trying to, who is the moderator, has been trying to join Zoom, but for some strange reason, this is not working. So, nevertheless, let me introduce Sachida, one of our young members who volunteered for moderating this webinar. I think it's very important to give the chance to our young members to have opportunities of either moderating or even speaking at our webinar, which enhances their public speaking skills and moderation skills, etc., etc. So Sachida Pachiapan, she's a research and international security advisor at Challenger Research and a 2026 Fellow of the Training in Radiological and International Security Project under the OECD NEA NEST Fellowship Program. Her work focuses on interdisciplinary nuclear crisis management, supported by a background in international security politics, nuclear safeguards and security, and human rights. She holds a master's degree in international security politics from Université Catholique de Lille and a specializing master's in nuclear safeguards from Politecnico di Milano as a CET fellow from the European Nuclear Education Network ENNS project. So, as I said, Sachida was going to moderate today's panel, which is entitled Mapping the Landscape of Nuclear Disarmament and Research Strategy with our speaker Ariel Phuphaphantakarn, whom I will introduce in a minute. And Ariel, apologies for my pronunciation. I should have asked you for the right one before we started. I'm sure I got it all wrong. But anyway, before I introduce Ariel, let me just tell you a little bit who is Win for Peace and what we do. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Share. One moment. I'm now in presentation mode. Can you see it well? Okay. So anyway, today we will speak about mapping the landscape of nuclear disarmament and research strategy with our speaker Ariel. Ariel, I will use your Ariel name, which is much easier for me. And as I said, Sachida, unfortunately, maybe she can still join, but currently she cannot connect via Zoom. So what is Win for Peace all about? It's one of the groups of Win Global groups of expertise. We currently have 14 groups, so Win for Peace is one of them, of which I am currently the leader. And our objective is to contribute towards world peace through the involvement of more women in the areas of nuclear non-proliferation, safeguards, export controls, and disarmament. We do this by different activities across all four domains. In particular, we offer education and training in these areas. We are open to all Win Global members, so in case you are interested in joining, please go to the Win Global website. On the top right, you will find the groups of expertise and just scroll down to the groups. You can join any of those groups, also several groups. And you just need to click on the group, and there is a form that you need to fill out, and then you will be able to join. We currently have about 30 members from all four continents. And here are some of the photos of our members, some of whom are present in this Zoom. We also have two supporters. One is the Vienna Center for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation, the VCDNP, and the other one is the UN Office for Disarmament Affairs, UNODA, at Vienna. As I have said, we usually have educational webinars and hybrid events, which are announced on social media and via email if you have already attended them, any previous one. And they're open to anyone. And we also have a YouTube channel where you can watch previous webinars, the recordings of those. We were founded in 2023 and have conducted several webinars related to, for example, nuclear non-proliferation regime, the basics, national, regional, and international safeguards, nuclear export control basics. We also spoke about Iran's nuclear program, the AQ Khan network, and nuclear disarmament, nuclear propulsion, nuclear weapons basics, basics of the nuclear fuel cycle, some of the nuclear weapons-free zones, the basics of nuclear physics, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, and the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And in 2025, we looked at novel equipment supporting the IAEA safeguards verification activities. We also looked at how Cameroon implements its safeguards agreement. It's an SQP state with an additional protocol in force. And we looked at the UAE's transition from a small quantities protocol to full scope safeguards implementation. We had a non-technical webinar on work-life balance and communication. We also heard from Chalk River Laboratories on their decommissioning and stored liquid waste project update. And last not least, we spoke about voices of diplomacy, wisdom from two generations. I can see Jenny Gormall present here, who was one of the great speakers. We also conduct joint webinars together with some of the other groups, like, for example, Women in Innovation on emerging technologies. So we had, in September last year, a webinar on emerging nuclear technology, in October on AI and digital twins in nuclear power, and we plan additional sessions on robotics, additive manufacturing, blockchain technology, and use of emerging technologies for IAEA safeguards, and also what are some of those challenges of emerging technologies. You can follow us on social media And you can also get in touch with me in case you are interested in any of our activities. Okay, so let me stop sharing now. And okay, I can see that unfortunately Sachida has not yet been able to join. So let me take over her role as the moderator, and let me introduce Ariel. Phantitra Phuphaphantakarn is her full name in Thai, and unfortunately, I speak several languages, but not Thai. Ariel has a Master in Arts in Non-Proliferation Terrorism Studies from the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. Her thesis examined AI-integrated nuclear deterrence in the US-China strategic behavior and perception. She's also an alumna of the Nuclear Scholar Initiative of the SCIS project on nuclear issues and was previously at James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies as a graduate research assistant and visiting scholar, where she serves as an IAEA Marie Sklodowska-Curie Fellow. Ariel has held many prestigious research fellowships at, for example, NEREC KAIST, CNES CTBTO, the Pacific Forum, and an oral history project participant with the Stanley Center. Ariel's research focuses on nuclear non-proliferation and the intersection of emerging technologies with nuclear risk perception and decision-making. Her work examines how trust, strategic behavior, and international cooperation are shaped in technologically mediated environments. Her areas of expertise include technology and conflict, nuclear threat perception, bargaining and decision theory, and human-machine relation. Ariel was also selected to serve as chair for the NPT simulation class led by Dr. William C. Potter. And she chose the topic of this event, which is like a mini lecture that explores a practical framework for approaching nuclear disarmament research and which draws on Ariel's own research experience. It is intended to support those at the start of their journey who may feel uncertain or unsure of where to begin, offering guidance, orientation, and a sense of intellectual community. So allow me to welcome and help me to welcome Ariel, our speaker. And dear Ariel, please unmute yourself, and the floor is all yours. And I will mute myself and close my camera as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. So the mic is on my iPad, which I'm about to share the screen because I wanted to write something. Just before I do that, just wanted to clarify a couple of things. Thank you so much for such a lovely introductions. I hope everyone can hear me well. But today is a little bit of I call it a teaching session itch, a little bit of a amateur version of a lecture, and I just wanted to share what I understand or something that I wish I had understood when I start up in the field. Just a little bit about me so you understand where I'm coming from, because this lecture is a little bit subjective. It's what I see as something important and something that I might not be able to cover all. But still, I started this journey in sometime 2020, 2021, and I had a degree in economics. So I started on my own. I'm from Thailand, so knowledge about nuclear disarmament is not really a thing here. So I kind of was alone and going through a lot of courses. And as Eva has mentioned, I did a couple of fellowships, and that's one of the ways that I kind of grew throughout the times. I also did a lot of speaking engagement, which allowed me to do a lot of research and interact with other researchers. So I'm really grateful to be here. I'm part of Women in Nuclear for Peace, for instance. Just want to also clarify one more thing, that this is not particularly a session is only for those who wish to have a scholarly or a research career. The term research is something everybody does all the times. For example, if you're going to a new country, if you're visiting a new area, you want to check out what are good like, where are the good place to eat, and that also count as research, right? Because you have to look into where are they, how you get there, and also like, for example, is there anything particular that you need to try in that restaurant or in that area? Right? So research is for everybody. So I decided this session to be both for people who want to do research career, or maybe you're in advocacy, maybe you're in science. There's a lot of wonderful women in our initiative who have background in engineering, physics, and science and whatnot. So yeah, with that, let me share the screen, and I'm going to keep this one on, but I'm also going to share my screen. Also, just a quick clarification. So you will be able to see both myself and the screen. So hopefully you can see my screen now. Um, just want to go ahead and put it out there that I have this career aspiration in academia. So I do hope that someday I get to professionally teach somewhere as part of my profession. And so I'm really grateful for the chance, because I was pitching this idea with Eva, and I was like, I want to do something a little crazy. And Eva saying, "You go, girl," and paraphrasing. But here I am, and hopefully you enjoy the session and you learn a thing or two. If you're not in the beginning of your career and you already have somewhat understanding of what disarmament is all about, you might find this a little boring, but feel free to stick around and, I don't know, chat during the Q&A sessions. I look forward to it. Okay, so today what I'm going to do, all right, is that I would like to map the landscape, um, or the approach of disarmament research. Okay, so this is a very Khan Academy type of situation. Hopefully, it would be better if I could interact with some of you. I feel like I'm talking to myself right now, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, disarmament research, not just for people who want a career in scholarship. If you're in advocacy, I wish a lot more people in other fields would also look into understanding more about disarmament and what it actually is, and so not to mistake your missions with some other things, which I'm going to point out later. Okay, so this is very innovative way of teaching this. I personally, I'm not sure if it's going to work. Just stick with me. I have about 20 minutes. I'm going to use it well. Okay. So when you think about the entire theater of the world, right, and you think of nuclear disarmament, the other side of the coin is nuclear armament, right? So where we are in the world right now usually is the narratives about um, nuclear armament, about the fact that more nuclear weapons might mean more peace in the world, or just the existence of nuclear weapons means more peace in the world, right? But many of us, most of you, probably all of you, me too, who are here, believes that, well, that might not be the case, right? So let me put it a little bit here. Okay, that's a very ugly circle. Okay, oops, 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 oops. Okay. Still very ugly, but let's go with it. Okay. So these are the two side of the it's just I'm just really bad at this art thingy. Okay. Let's just go with this. Okay. So we are here at the armament site. Right. So this armament and this is disarmament. Um, so this is where we want to be, right? Can I use no. So this disarmament being, this is where we want it to be, right? So what happened is that we're in the world where most people still believes in the armament. So in order to shows you how do we sort of understand ways to maneuvers from this side of the world, which is the world that just super duper loving nuclear weapons, into the other side of the coin, which is disarmament. Like what are the possible potential ways, and what are the related concepts that we must not be mistaken, right? So let's say this being divided to half, and there are folks who are pro more nuclears, the more nuclear, the better. And those who kind of incline into like the less nuclear, the better, right? So this is the extreme end on both sides, right? So what does disarmament means? And this is something very important. It's the total eliminations of nuclear weapons. And we're going to make a note here. By the way, I write everything in the like, what's that, capital letters. If it annoys you, I'm very sorry. And so we're not gonna look too much here, right? Because we're like, those are not the area. Well, we're gonna look at that later, but it's not really the focus here today. Here, from here to somewhere here, you're gonna find two related terms. There might be more, but this is the focus. This is the main character. The first one is non-proliferation. I don't have space for it, but this is non-proliferation. The other one is control, right? So just want to clarify, and I'm about to show you that this is probably, it's related to the reductions of the numbers of nuclear weapons and nuclear warheads specifically. But does it mean the total eliminations of nuclear weapons? That's another question. And that is something you always kind of have to have that in mind. For the non-proliferation, there are two kinds. All right. The first kind is the horizontal. The second one is vertical. Now, for the horizontal, it means the differences between these two are, the horizontal means we want to, okay, wait, let's go back a little bit. Non-proliferate means prevent the spread of something, right? If you ESL like me, that's what it means, right? So horizontal non-proliferation would means we prevent the extra numbers of nuclear arms states. So we don't want more countries to have nuclear weapons, right? So that's the horizontal. The vertical means we don't want the country that already have the nuclear weapons to have more of nuclear weapons, or to have like a better advanced or whatnot, like the systems of it. So when we look, actually, okay, I forgot to mention this, the armament side, those who super duper in love with the idea of having more nuclear weapons hit themselves under this concept of nuclear deterrence. Okay. And usually what they do is that they call this existence of nuclear weapon as peace, as nuclear peace, which is, by the way, absurd, extremely absurd. The fact that you would be okay living under the existential threat as a definition of peace, I don't know how we've gone that far. Anyway, CLEA, CLE, nuclear peace. Okay, and something that these two shared in certain elements is that we both don't want the detonate of nuclear weapons. Okay, we don't want it to explode. We don't want it to be like Hiroshima. Even though these people like nuclear weapons, doesn't mean they want to use it. Okay, so we have to give them that. Right. So there's a concept that nuclear risk reduction. This is something the two sort of share, and there's a little bit of a note between the relationship between nuclear risk reductions and disarmaments, and I'm going to go to that quickly later. So anyway, if you want to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, on a horizontal front. For example, you don't want more of the states to have nuclear weapons. If you are yourself already a nuclear weapon state, that might not mean anything in terms of like vertical reductions of nuclear weapons. So it's still in a way can be related to. I mean, you don't want other people to have nuclear weapons, but you yourself will give that up. Like has no promise on that. Um, the vertical one has slightly like closer relationship to disarmament because it means that you will no longer um have more of it. And when you already have it, it could also means uh the eliminations of what you already have also. So in a way, it's sort of closer into that direction. Arms control is the control of the numbers of the nuclear warheads. And sometimes it could mean that you could uh, agree to increase the warheads into a certain level and then stop, right? So both are equally at the same level, or that you could both agree to reduce into a certain area. So certain numbers or certain amounts, right? So this does it means it is closer into the directions of disarmament? Well, if you keep reducing it all the way to zero, then it could potentially be, right? It's not a straight line. It just like it depends on how um, you go about it, look at it, right? But either way, it's kind of better, right, to have agenda on non-proliferation, to have agenda on arms control, to have an efforts on disarmament. Like it's better than to actually support the more amount of nuclear weapons or nuclear warheads in the world. Um, but again, depends, right? For example, I'm highlighting it here. Don't fall into the trap of like, okay, we're putting out the non-proliferation efforts, but what are you doing about your own nuclear numbers, like nuclear warheads, right? So that is to be noted. Now, here from this map, um, three big area, very big, very vague, um, that you could take in terms of like looking into nuclear disarmament um, are the first one is you go about it from this side of so you can approach it from learning about this side of the coin or this side of the extreme. What you can do is, for example, okay, wait, that's better. Okay, I realize I might not have enough time, but I'm be quick. I'll be quick. So what happened here is that there are exist.
Excuse me,
Um,
Ariel. Ariel, you are not in
yes.
a hurry, okay? Just take your time,
Oh,
okay?
really?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So what happens here is that there are beliefs and stance and arguments and whatnot, right? And there's a narrative on this whole nuclear weapons as peace, right? So there's a, you can go on Twitter and you can search, the terms like nuclear weapons, nuclear war. There's going to be a bunch of people who's like tweeting about we're fought to have the nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapon is good. We must have it, and this like whole beliefs has been going on. That goes all the way from Twitter all the way to like classical text and international relations, right? So when you want to um, understand why, okay, you cannot fight something you don't understand. That's something you have to understand first, right? You cannot, I mean, you can actually, but it won't be too effective or sustainable if you don't understand how it is started, right? So, but for those who really want to take this like approach in particular, you can do it approximately two front. Sorry, that's my dad. So there's like history, um, and there's like a history of nuclear weapons. I'm using the term nuke here just to shorten it up, but I don't like it, by the way. Just FYI. History of nuclear weapons and theory. There are more that you can look into, but this is like the most tangible sort of area where you can look at. Um, yeah. So you can look at, for example, how did it start, right? For example, the history of fission fusions, what happened, what did Einstein said, how comes like the Manhattan Project exists, who's an Oppenheimer. You could start doing all of that. You can see, uh, like you can you can look into what Roosevelt think about the nuclear weapons. You can think about um, Germany getting a nuclear weapons or how did they didn't, right? You can look into the history of how it's being used. You can look into the history of just one moment, please. Poha, poha, poha. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, the history of the bombs, you can see what was the strategy, what was the arguments. There are people saying that it's ended the Second World War. How do you feel about that? What are the arguments available? There's also theories which mostly is going to be on international relations. There are a lot more that you can look into, right? The how does threat actually work in this arena? Like what deterrence actually means? What are the credibilities of deterrence? Why are we even accepted the fact that this exists and it will continue to exist, right? So these are something that you can look into. Um, but here's what you always gonna do if you're not actually pro armament, right? You have a goal in mind, and that is to disarm. You don't want this thing, you understand it in order to fight it. So what you come up with as you go through this is a strategy. Is you identify what's what, the elements of the beliefs of how the stamps start. Is it still relevant to this day? Right, there's a lot of studying to say today's multipolar world, it might work in the past, it might work when there's like a Cold War era. This is not the same, and this is more fragile world, so we shouldn't be focusing too much on, we shouldn't be just taking those narrative into our today's world, right? So what you do is that you have in mind these things that you think it's not doesn't work anymore or isn't true. If you believe that, you can find a stance to support that and fight it. That's the part. Okay, wait, I'm gonna use red just cause. Fight it. Okay, I call it sometimes like learn the language, but it's like it's just just learn the language. No, I'm not gonna write it out. It's learn the language. Learn the language, learn this whole theater, this operational that, learn this whole technical entire thing, what deterrence means, what are the military people are talking about. Learn it and fight it. Right. So that's one approach you can take. Another one is on this arena, which is on the nuclear risk reduction. It's called nuclear risk reduction. It also includes non-proliferation and arms control, right? So not directly disarmament per se, but it can be done in order to support the disarmament, right? So I'm going to call it the nuclear risk reduction approach. Nuclear risk reduction approach of it. Um, so this is something always very interesting to read about especially when you're a scholar or you're a close supporter of the NPT, which is ongoing right now. Okay, so what happened is since both sides of the coins are actually in the way share the same goal that the nuclear weapon is not to be used again, the term nuclear risk reductions can be translated, can be can be an approach for both sides, right? But there are, like, I want to note, because I run a nuclear reading club, and there are a scholar who came and he wrote a paper on nuclear risk reduction being the distraction from disarmament. And that is also something that's being discussed on the NPT. Side note, side note. Anyway, you want to make sure that it works to support directly the disarmament. You don't want to be vague about it. Okay, you don't want it to just belongs into the pack and then do nothing. You feel me? Like, you don't want it to keep studying and speak their language to just blend in their world. You could walk among them, right? You be invited to the rooms and you can say things, right? Um, but the goal in your mind, if you really believe in nuclear disarmament, that's what you do, is that you make sure that nuclear risk reduction is to contribute to disarmament. Okay, I'm going to move this slide a little bit. This is going to be more. Oops. Right. Um, and you always have to make sure when you talk about this way, let me get my notes. This way, um, wait, no, let's start with this. When disarmament is the goal, you can also look at get it two ways, right? So nuclear risk reduction as a pathway for nuclear disarmament, or we're supporting nuclear disarmament as a pathway for nuclear risk reduction. So it works both ways. It worked like this: disarmament as a pathway for nuclear risk reduction, or it works. I'm going to use another color here because it's something to note. Nuclear risk reductions as a pathway for disarmament, right? This is something you have to make a heavy note. Um, Disarmament as a pathway to nuclear risk reduction is very simple. You can take it as like, if there is no nuclear weapons, then there's no nuclear risks, right? So zero nukes, um, zero risks. Right, so that's one way you can look about it, and then you can just go straight into the approach to how actually to make disarmament happen. And the other one is how to make nuclear risk reductions something to support disarmament. This one is an interesting thing because you have to note that it is not a substitute. Okay, you cannot forget to like make notes of this language, because then some people think that nuclear risk reduction is the equivalent of nuclear disarmament. It's not. That you have to always make sure that it's not a substitute. However, it can, with a lot of notes, build trust, right? I'm gonna start getting a little bigger now. Okay. Um, Lower pressures and whatnot, right? Um, I am obligated to say this. I'm a policy fellow at APLN, Asia Pacific Network, and we have a project on fail-safe. Actually, I really, really enjoy it. So please check out. This is also part of nuclear risk reductions in terms of like the technical side, making sure that there is no accidental or the detonated of the nuclear warheads that we didn't want. Anyway, last part is on nuclear disarmament specifically. If you want to work on this specifically, you can do it in a couple of ways. Um, there are mainly two approach. I'm saying mainly because this is not all. The first one is the mechanism. You can study, for example, strategy. Uh, you can study uh, any form of efforts that's going to lead to that, right? And then you can also have factors that may contribute or areas that has a very unique collaboration patterns possibilities. So for the mechanism, you can do it um, on both sides, right? Because nuclear weapons start in the mind. Oops, I just realized. Okay. You could do it on the narrative front. Or you could do it narrative or theory front, or you can do it on something a little bit more practical, right? The narrative is going to be slightly book based, but it's contributed to our understanding of why disarmament is better approach to world peace than nuclear arms or the nuclear peace that we understand today. That is going to be a little bit of a um, norms building. So any readings or any study of the norm buildings usually lies in, I'm going to shout out to Uppsala here, peace and conflict studies. You might want to look into that. Most important of all, it should be multidisciplinary perspective. If you look into what peace and conflict study is, you might find something you've enjoyed. There's also another part which is also international relations. Um, like states might interact socially. What are, for example, the paper I'm writing is disarmament ontologies, what states' perceptions of what disarmament is. And this can also contribute to this too, right? It's the narratives that we're going to use to fight the stance and the beliefs of something that we in the world is already existing pro like nuclear armament. Something slightly a bit more practical you can have. You can approach it with international law. So these are where the diplomats are workings. They are at the United Nations in New York. Today's workings, negotiating things. You could be the support on that. You can study the documents. You can say, maybe America should say that. Maybe China should say that. What is China is doing? Whatnot. So a little bit more practical sense. The other is on verification. And this is whatever done for many, many years. I forgot how long. But you can work on, because verification is a very important part of nuclear disarmament, also linked to another important concept, which is irreversibility. A little nitty-gritty, we don't have time for that, but it's mean reversibility. Can I write? I don't speak English. But this can also support um, the international law, the NPT. How do we like these are also part of the norms, international norms, right? The TPNW. What does it mean for the global south? What does it mean for non-development states and whatnot? These are the first approach you can take. The other is you can study different factors, right? Um, and that could come from a disruptive factors, right? For example, the tech, obviously the AI, the new systems, um, the new players, right? That also can be something disruptive, right? It can be new election, for example, wink, wink. You got a new leaders who doesn't know things about nuclear weapons and then trying to threat people, this and that, right? Not naming any name. And another one is you can also kind of like look into like the specific geographic theater on like how the negotiations can happen or how our specific theaters are talking, I mean, geographic area are talking or discussing disarmament, right? This can also lead to something like nuclear weapon free zones, for instance. Now, that is the entire approach. I only have one last thing to go, very, very last thing, is that two questions that you need to ask yourself if you're starting out and you want to know what you want to do. First, um, question for yourself. First, who am I? Like, what is your area of expertise? What is your background? What is something that you like to do? What can you contribute? What are you good at? Do you want to keep doing that, or you want to be good at something else? Then acquire that, and then make that part of yourself. That make that part of who you are. The second is, well, what do you want? Okay, and what do you want goes in both way. To do or learn, right? Um, ugh, to do, learn, Learn. Apparently, I don't speak English. To be. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where you see yourself? Kind of work towards that directions, right? Do you want to be a scholar? Do you want to work on campaigns? Do you want to write? Are you good at social media? Do you want to work on people, states relationship? Do you want to work on state relationship? Like see who you are, what you want to do or be, and also what do you want to see? What is it you believe in? Like, why do you believe in nuclear disarmament? For me personally, I believe it's a better version of humanities, the version that we don't live too high behind the fears or under our own biases of this world. You know, like for me, it's that and what it means to me. What does it mean to you? What exactly do you want to see? One last thing, very last thing. Um, you could do this by acquire two things. First, knowledge. The second is skills. These are not the same thing, right? On a knowledge front, okay, when you look at here, from what I just told you here, right, the history, the theory, um, the norms building, fail-safe and whatnot, these are the knowledge, which you can have as many. Matter of fact, have as many as you like. The multidisciplinary is the key. Is the key. The skills is something you wanted to use. Like some write good, some likes to read and write, right? That's those are also skills. Not everybody can read, actually. FYI. Um, you can negotiate, like that's also a very good skills to have. Part of it, prepare documents, negotiation, do the talking. Or do you know how to run a Python? Do you want to create a game to educate people about nuclear disarmaments? Those are the skills that you can have. In terms of the skills, find what's match yours. I'm not going to involve in that territory. You know who you are. But for the knowledge front, acquire it from like many disciplinary as possible. Right, you can learn about science of the nuclear weapons. You can learn about the technology. You can learn about the history, and you can also learn about nuclear negotiations, international relations, and whatnot. Find what is very interesting to you, what is unique to you, and then keep following it. So basically, just following your curiosity, and that would be the end of my mini version teaching each session. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you're are you guys still here. Are you still here?
Wow, Ariel, this was amazing. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for this visual presentation of this important topic as a mind
Thank
map. This
you.
is really wonderful. I've never had such an interesting presentation. Um,
Thank you.
Thank you so much on clarifying the different terms because I think it's really important to know what we are talking about. Arms control is not disarmament. It may be arms reduction, but not really disarmament. That's very important to know. Also, as you also mentioned, we this week the NPT review conference started in New York, and as
New
we all
York.
know, Article 6 requires the five declared nuclear weapon states under the NPT to disarm. Unfortunately, the NPT
Mm-hmm.
does not contain similar requirements like Article 6, like Articles 2 and 3 on non-proliferation and subjection to IAEA safeguards. So therefore, the NPT has been there for so many years, and we still have no progress on disarmament. So I think this is really one of the shortcomings of the NPT that Article 6 is really very vague. So thank you for clarifying these things. I'm just wondering whether we have any young disarmament, non-proliferation policy people on this call. I myself have noted many times that I'm more of a technical person, but sometimes the technical people have no idea about the policy side, and vice versa. The policy people say, "Oh, I'm just a policy person. I have no technical background and I can't be bothered to learn about the other field. And I think what you said is really important, that we should all acquire a knowledge of all sides, that the technical people should be aware of the policy stuff involved in nuclear weapons, and the other way around. The policy people should be aware of how are nuclear weapons built, how are they developed, what is the nuclear fuel cycle, how do you enrich uranium, how do you separate plutonium, etc., etc. So I think this is very important, and thank you for bringing this up. And of course, language is important, and understanding of the matter is really important. So I'm really happy that you touched upon all this. Um, I'm really sorry that Satchida, our moderator who was foreseen for this, is not able to participate, but she has forwarded me some of the questions to you, especially for those of you who are um, at the early stages of your learning experience. For example, she has said, for those who are still unsure about entering this field, what do you think is the most practical step that you could take after today's session? And maybe, Ariel, you respond to this question because you have gone through this by yourself. And you have, as you said, you are from Thailand, and I don't think there are many Thai scholars in the field of disarmament and non-proliferation. What would you advise to young people who are just recently entering this field? And also, if you think of some of the errors that you made maybe at the beginning of your career, what should they avoid doing? Maybe you want to respond to that, Ariel. Uh,
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Yes.
before we open the discussion to the wider audience.
First questions, like what are the practical steps you can take, if you still sort of thinking whether or not you really, really want to do this, and if you already decided you want to do this, then how like to take it further. So if you're still making decisions, so I'm personally a mentee, no, a mentor to someone at a UNODA, um, young leaders young leaders funds of some sort, YLF, and I have a lot of conversations with her, and I realized that something that we share in common is that if you want to find out whether or not you like something, you really have to get yourself into it. In a way, you have to really sit with it and explore it. Um, I will say, I will say it's not so much about the passions or the love that you have for it. I think it's more about two things. The first thing is the curiosity. Are you curious about it? Are you generally really curious about it? You really wanted to do something about it? That's the first indicator, I would say. If the more you approach it, the more you're curious about it, the more you want to go further, that's a really good sign. The second is what I really like to say about my relationship with economics and my relationship with like nuclear policy is that uh, I love economics, by the way, when I was doing economics. Like all my professors thought that someday I'm going to be one of their colleagues. And so they are very amazed that I'm here today doing all this thing about nuclear weapons. Um, but what I had with economics was like a high school sweetheart turned fiance. And then I met this new guy who's like nuclear age, third nuclear age that I was reading about, and I just marry him in a way, like a movie. But I'll keep it quick. But what I'm trying to say is, it's like getting married to something, and that is not always about um, the love that you have for another person, but it's also like, are you okay with the flaws? Are you okay with the shortcomings? Are you okay with the struggle that you have to go through? Are you okay with all these things? I know that I'm going to face a lot of discrimination. I know that it's not going to be easy for me, but I was like, I have love big enough for it. And so if you feel that way, the curiosity is still something that you like wanted to pursue, I think that's a really good indicator. Um, if you already know that you want to do this, a very good way is to identify the area of knowledge that you want to have. Like, first of all, asking yourself who you are and what are you curious about it. Very practical advice would be pick a few keywords and just search it on YouTube and sit through a bunch of webinars that's made available, right? If you find a course, sometimes self-paced course is very boring, and if you don't particularly enjoy doing that, it's okay. Just go through a bunch of webinars, go to different conferences, trying to write, submit it, abstract, go to different conferences. Um, you might find yourself feeling like a fraud. I often find myself feeling like a fraud doing things like, do I really know about this? But you know what? You go do it, because that's the only way you're going to grow, and it's the only way you're going to learn, and it's the only way you're going to find out who you are and what actually you want to see and what are all these things means to you. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
I forgot about the second question. Sorry.
Thank you, Ariel. Yes, I fully agree with you. You need to be curious about whatever you do in life. So don't just become an expert in something and you don't look left or right. Always try to work on your own skills and to
Oh,
explore new
yes.
skills, and
Um,
to continuous learning is really important, I think.
yes. Can I add one thing? Because I just recall
Hmm.
your second question, and that is what the error that I made. One of the errors that I made, and I really, really don't want you to make, is that don't blend yourself in too hard. Right, because when you talk about this whole policy side of things, there's going to be a lot of people writing about a lot of things that's really quick, very fast. And it's actually the trend, right? It's okay to understand what's going on. It's very important to understand the trends and what is really hot topic of the conversations, but never forget who you actually are. Never forget what you actually want to do. And even if you are talking about the things that is part of the trend, contribute it in your own unique way by your stance. Like, don't blend in too hard that you forgot who you are. Like, don't do that. So that's a quick note for you.
Yes, I fully agree with you, Ariel. Thank you very much for that. I still have a couple of questions, but I would like to open the floor to any questions from the audience. So we have one here. Hi, thank you very much for sharing. I was on commute for part of the course. I was wondering whether there's a recording. I really cherish this opportunity to learn from the best. So compliment to you, Ariel. Yes, anonymous attendee, all our webinars will be shared on YouTube, and all the registered participants should get an information once the webinars is uploaded on YouTube. I'm wondering, are there any other questions from the audience? If not, I would like to ask you, Ariel, how can people from non-traditional backgrounds, for example, like advocacy, economics, or communications, how can they meaningfully contribute to nuclear disarmament research and policy? So people who have not
Um,
studied what you have studied.
Two things. Depends on what this missions or this pursuit means to you, right? And what are the strength that you have or do you want to contribute? So the thing is, when you have this kind of knowledge, you not always have all the skills. People from different discipline has different perspective and different skills. For example, if you're from communications, if you're from economics, might be different frame of thinking, might be different way of maybe you can use Canva. Not many researcher can use Canva, right? Maybe you know how to communicate things better, and communication is part of everyday life. So first of all, identify who you are, right? Who am I? Like this skills, what do I have, what do I want to do, and then interpreted that into the contributions of the disarmament mission, right? The disarmament efforts, right? What does disarmament means to you? And then use that skill into that direction. You can study it from the people who are from a similar field, from a similar line of work. That also depends, but I would also greatly suggest that here and there, if you don't want to go too much into, you don't have to like read a peer reviewed journals about these whole things if you're not really wanted to be a scholar. I don't suppose that is necessary for everybody, but you can, watch documentaries about how the nuclear weapons programs like started. You can still watch webinars of what are the conversations about nuclear disarmament. There's also a lot of conversation from nuclear advocacy side. There are people who are passionately bringing something to the table, and always know that you can also bring something to the table too. Depends on what you want to bring. So identify what you want to bring, and I think the rest will be okay.
Thank you, Ariel. Yeah, I fully agree with you on this. We have one more question from the audience. How can people from non-nuclear countries, especially from the global south, like yourself, start a career in this field? What did you
That
do to start your career? How did
a
you
lot
come?
of things, a lot, so many things that I did. Uh, I don't know if we have enough time for this. I'm gonna go through it very quickly. But first of all, you gotta be very realistic about the journey that's coming for you because it's not gonna be easy. But there's also gonna be a very something you could use. Um, asked someone from the global south contributing to this area, what does it mean to you? I think this is very important questions that you have to ask yourself. Like, if you're from the global south, if everybody tells you that what you have to do is to end poverty, is to end inequality, is to figure what you're supposed to do with your agriculture, which is, by the way, all the good things. But with that, all the narratives being placed on you, what you were supposed to do, why are you still wanted to pursue this? What is it that you want to bring into the table? So that is something you have to answer first, and then that is your strength. That is your strength, and use that into translate that into getting into all the things. That's like a really philosophical advice. More practical one is go to conferences, apply to conferences, um, get a degree that related to this line of work if you are thinking about getting a degree. If not, that's okay. Get engaged with advocacy um, initiatives. There are many that looking for a lot of people. I run a nuclear reading club. You could also be part of that. We have Win um, for Peace. We have Women in Nuclear for Peace. We have a lot of things. You can even do the easiest thing, like subscribe to, by the way, tie in APL and Asia Pacific Leadership Network. Yay. It's also a place where there's a lot of experts in the fields who are underrepresented, available. You can have a look at them. You can have a look at their work. They're, you know, their voices are being heard, and um, which is I'm very proud of that I get a job here at APLN. But anyway, that's also something you can do. Showed up to different initiatives, just trying to make sure that you are understand what you are doing and you're establishing yourself as someone who know what you're doing. I think that's as close as you can get because there's no shortcut. You
Yeah.
just really have to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Ariel, for that. And I would like to add about attending conferences. I am fully aware that young people just don't have the financial means to
Mm.
attend conferences always. On the other hand, there are always opportunities for young researchers, support given to young researchers to participate in such conferences. So always keep your eyes open. For example, in Win Global, we run a competition to participate in the annual Institute of Materials Management conference. So one of the winner, we ask for submissions of abstracts at the beginning of the year. We select the best abstract, and that abstract is then submitted to the INMM for presentation at the annual meeting, and the winner of the abstract will get some support by Win Global to go to that conference. So always look for such opportunities. Always keep your eyes open. Be connected on all these networks like Win Global, Next Young Women Next Generation Initiative, Black Sea Nuclear Women, whatever they are all called. Always keep your eyes open. Nowadays, there are a lot of options and opportunities for young people. So, without further ado, I think we give Ariel a huge applause and thank her very much for opening our eyes to the field of disarmament. And
Thank you.
me personally, I was in Nagasaki 2 weeks ago and I saw the destruction caused by a very primitive first nuclear weapon. Actually, it was the second one, the first plutonium weapon. And I really pray that one day nuclear disarmament can be achieved so that we live in a world that is not always subject to complete destruction by nuclear weapons. So let's join our hands to make that happen. And thank you to all of you for attending this interesting webinar. And a huge thank you to you, Ariel. You did an outstanding job. And I made a photo of this, your chart, and I'm going to post it. So thanks so much, everybody. And let's give us a big applause to Ariel. And sorry that Sachida could not make it to make Zoom work on her computer. Thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you soon on the next one, which will be related to UN Security Council Resolution 1540. So keep your eyes open. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.